Welcome to Spider Month. Welcome to Spider Month, everybody, and I am here to talk about the one thing that introduced me to the character and possibly the one thing that introduced everybody to this character, at least in this generation of time, and that is, of course, the 2002 movie Spider Man, directed by Sam Raimi. And over the past couple years, I have been asked what is the best superhero origin story put in a movie. And a lot of people have said Batman Begins, Superman the movie. But for me, the best origin story ever put on the big screen was this movie, Spider Man. It's the most memorable one, it's the most quotable one, it's the one that people go back and watch. It's a very iconic story as it is. So for them to get it on the first go was awesome. There is a lot to be said about Sam Raimi's direction in this movie. You can clearly tell he wanted to get this right. I will say that I was very happy and when we got this movie because I was 3 years old when this movie came out. So the only memory I have of this movie ever was going to cousins and going to other people's houses, and everybody loved this movie. And I watched it and was like, yeah, this is a really good movie. And as a kid, usually you get bored of like watching how do we get from point A to point B. But then of course when we got the second one, I was like, I'm going to the theaters. And to this day I have been to every single Spider-Man movie in theaters except this one. And I had the chance to go last year or when they were marathoning through all of them. I don't remember what year that was, but it landed on a Monday. I was like, there's no way I'm going to make it. So, um, I was just very overwhelmed. I know one of these days I'm going to go watch this movie in the big screen, and I'm very happy that I still get to remember this one because Tobey Maguire, even though we didn't get teenage Peter Parker just quite yet, um, we got him going into college, leaving high school. Um, it was a big risk because everybody loved, you know, a teenager balancing life and going into the world as Spider Man. But we still kind of get that in this movie and in the second one, especially in the second one. But in this movie, it was just more about how do we get the story right. They got right the whole him getting bitten by a radioactive spider and then getting these superpowers and figuring out how they work. It was really cool seeing Flash Thompson, who is a very iconic character in the Spider-Man universe. Uh, Basically, Peter's bully. We only get to really see him in this movie. Joe Manganiello goes on to move on to even bigger things. But funny thing, this is 2002, so at the time they were very picky on picking child actors. So they went with young adults that look too old to be here. But at least they got the writing correctly. That's the one thing that takes away from them looking too old to be in high school. Mary Jane Watson, Kristen Dunst did a good job here. I know a lot of people don't like her because of her screaming in the later movies, but she does really well being that girl that wants to do cool stuff in the world, being Peter Parker's neighbor. Um, not necessarily falling in love with him just yet. Over time, you do see it. That scene where Spider Man saves MJ, they do that kiss in the rain. It's very iconic, one of the most iconic scenes in Spider Man history. And then we have Harry Osborn, who was portrayed by James Franco. And, say what you will, I'll take away for these videos, I'll take away everything that he did, but his portrayal as Harry Osborn was solid. You really do buy that Harry and Peter are really good friends. However, him being the rich guy, you can tell that he wants to be normal, but at the same time, he has been spoiled too much. Where you do see his inner evil self when he refuses to defend MJ from his father's comments into here. I think that that part of what made Harry Osborn's performance here good is him not being quite ready yet, and then we're slowly building to his eventual demise and turning evil. One other thing that I have to mention in this movie before I forget, Danny Elfman has an incredible playlist soundtrack that I listen to this day. Like, you know it when it came out in No Way Home, you knew it. It is a very iconic theme for Spider-Man. It's not the um, typical uh, cartoon Spider-Man, but in fact, it is like its own thing, and you know it's Spider-Man. Whenever you hear it, when it kicked off in the credits, you know it's Spider-Man. Danny Elfman, you are the man. But hands down, the best performance was Willem Dafoe. He was just a fantastic Harry Osborn. You know how much I sacrificed for this? He looked evil. The real issue was them covering his face and looking like a Power Ranger character. But over time, we grew to love it. Um, but it is kind of dumb that they would cover up Willem Dafoe's face. He just looks evil, and you want to cover up his face and make him look less evil. I don't think so. It does feel like two different characters, and I love it. That mirror scene where he's talking to himself in the mirror, or when he's talking to the mask, was just top notch. Other great performances in this movie were Aunt May. She really does feel like Spider-Man's aunt, someone who really cares for her, and then of course, Ben Parker, who, you know, he here's where he dies. The iconic scene. I know it's been done to death over time, but when they got it right the first time, the with great power comes great responsibility line worked here. His death was very powerful, and it really sucked. And the fact that that big twist where Spider-Man goes after the guy who shot Uncle Ben and stole the car just so happens to be the guy who stole money from the wrestling people who did him wrong, was the guy who shot Uncle Ben. Like, I forgot where that was my fault, and then his ignorance is the reason why Uncle Ben got shot. It took a dark tone, and it was like, man, that really sucks. But it helped teach Peter how to become a better Spider-Man, and how the whole with great power comes great responsibility line takes a huge step into who Spider-Man is in these movies. Also, that bonesaw shot with the Macho Man Randy Savage and Spider-Man was iconic. That fight was great, super iconic, and very awesome. Another great character was J. Jonah Jameson. J.K. Simmons did a phenomenal job playing this character. He just looks the part to a T. And, you know, Peter Parker wanting to balance his life and be loved by people as Spider-Man. You know, it takes a while. Like, at this point, most people see him as the bad guy, but some people do see Spider-Man as the hero. But, you know, not everybody sees it, and thanks to J. Jonah Jameson. So there is some stakes as to why being a superhero, or a vigilante, I should say, is not always good. And they did a good job. And the fact that Green Goblin doesn't immediately want to just kill Spider-Man just for the sake of it, like, there is a lot of why Green Goblin works, and that is because, you know, Norman Osborn got screwed over by his company. Um, they want to buy out his business and just make it go out of business, and then eventually he takes down those men, and he wants to align himself with Spider-Man, a guy who has also been doing wrong. And so there is a lot to why the chemistry between Green Goblin and Spider-Man work, and why Green Goblin was the correct villain for this movie. A lot of people immediately want to jump to Venom and the Lizard and all these big monsters, but you need someone who's more grounded for the origin story. And I thought they picking Norman Osborn was the correct choice. Some negatives, I would say, MJ and the love triangle with Harry and Peter, it does work and it builds up for later movies, but I didn't personally like it here. I think it worked better in two. It does eventually build up to Harry Osborn's. Harry goes through a lot here. You know, he wants the approval of his dad. MJ is always disagreeing with him, and then when Green Goblin dies, um, it takes a toll into Harry Osborn and makes him turn on Spider-Man just like the rest of the world. But then that further pushes Spider-Man to be who he is and what he's all about. So that part I definitely got right. Really, the big negatives have to be the whole uh Power Ranger look for the Green Goblin, which, like I said, we all grew to love eventually down the road. Some of the effects are not that good. You can tell that this is a 2002 movie, but for the most part, them getting the origin story correctly here was awesome. Um, you know, Peter Parker is just this dorky loser in high school. He gets these powers. He learns the value of, what these powers are. With great power comes great responsibility. And he is Spider Man. No matter if people love him or hate him, he made himself the hero of the story. And I thought that that is what they got correctly. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. That scene in Brooklyn was awesome. Almost everything was just done correctly here. And it did a fantastic job of introducing us to this world. And it led to what we all want, and that is more Spider-Man, more of this world, and that is why it became a success. It beat Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones this year. So that's saying a lot. Anyways, this is hands down one of the best Spider-Man movies, one of the best origin stories put into the big screen. Yeah, I'm gonna have to give this movie an A. I can't do it. I was gonna give it a A minus because of some of the effects, but just that nostalgia and that feel of watching it again made me feel like a kid again, and that is why this is hands down the best origin story in my book. Anyways, we're gonna continue Spider-Man month again for the next 30 days coming up. Hope you guys are excited. Next, I'll be reviewing one of the more recent animated cartoons, and that is Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man that came out on Disney Plus earlier this year. I'll be talking about the first season, what I thought. Anyways, stay tuned.